So I'm just curious everyone else's take on where they're seeing the industry, if we think that this is going to be a pattern or we're going to be able to convince more investors to sort of come in on the land development side of things.
It's funny, Leah had mentioned necessity. Necessity is a big part of my business. We're a brokerage operation, so trying to figure out what buyers want to buy, where they want to buy, how they want to structure deals, and then trying to find product for that need. When I started in really focusing on build for rent, right after the COVID pandemic, it was a relatively interesting time to start because builders didn't know what the pandemic was going to do to the build for rent market, so a lot of them got spooked. So it was easy to go out there and find builders who didn't want to, make the risk of bringing their product to the retail market, and build for rent sounded like a pretty good option. As we went through the last couple of years and build for rent became such an accepted and hot topic, at the same time, the retail market has been exploding. So most builders wanting to sell their subdivisions to a single investor instead of getting the appreciation bump of possibly going to the retail market. Necessity of going upstream for us in trying to find lot developers that sell lots to those builders who would build their homes and convincing them, hey, instead of selling to a national production builder or the regional builders that you've been selling lots to all these years, why don't you sell your entire subdivision to, a single build for rent buyer? And that's a tough thing for a company like a lot of land developers, firms that make their living and traditionally have made their living buying land, entitling it, and then putting the lots on the ground for sale to retail home builders. But the more competitive the market gets, the more builders we have to talk to in order to find the CFO opportunity to bring to our institutional investors. And a lot of what we're doing right now is just trying to find developers who would let us compete with builders so we can get lot product for our institutional investors. And the more competitive it gets, the further upstream you tend to go. Where our last 2 transactions were actually paper lot deals, entitled approved lot deals that we worked on. It takes a long time. It takes a year to 18 months to bring that kind of project to fruition. But the more competitive it gets, the more, again, to your point, creative you have to get in finding opportunities and how to structure the deals into workable deals for build for rent.
I'm curious sort of on something that I think you guys can all sort of give your own expertise on and from your different vantage points in the industry. I mentioned this before, probably the worst 10 deals, now sadly the worst 16 deals I've seen in my entire career have been build for rent deals over the last six months. And it's definitely an indication that we're seeing those sort of projects that are maybe more away from center markets, as you were saying, that are just sort of experimental. But I'm curious if our experiences sort of reflect what you're seeing, which is while the industry in build for rent is still a very sound strategy, there is a lot of, well, I'll just call it sort of dumb money in the space that is, sort of driving up prices or making things a little bit, unsustainable. So that's sort of what we're seeing. But I'm curious, in all of your different vantage points, whether it's market-wide or nationwide, what are you guys seeing, and how are you, ensuring that you're not, sort of part of that problem?
It's funny. There's certainly no shortage of land in the United States. Anyone that's been in a plane and looked down at an MSA realized how much land there really is out there. And it's funny that the more attention the build for rent space gets, the more land brokers and land sellers tend to try to pigeonhole everything into a build for rent project now because it's the new thing. There's no shortage of land, but there is a shortage of good lot positions and things that make sense. Part of the reason why I like build for rent so much, as opposed to like scatter site, which is, they're already built assets, they're already cash flowing, it is what it is. When you're looking for a build for rent project from the ground up development side, you can use your imagination, you can get creative, and you can use your intelligence to really kind of think about what people want, think about your end client, who's the tenant, how they live, where they work, what size families they have, what their family goals are, what their kids want. And you can look at, in a market, any market, if you get to know the people that are making their living by finding land positions, taking it through zoning, taking it through the entitlement process, that's really the hardest part of the equation. It's also the most, it's the risky, but it's also the highest return. And I'm finding that in a market where I'm not all that familiar, it might take me 6 months to 9 months to really understand who the land players are. Every market has, a syndicate of land owners and land developers who really know where the sewer's going out to, where the city wants utilities to go out to. And you mentioned dumb money. I think the only thing that's foolish about what people might do is rushing in to do a deal just to do a deal. If you take your time and you really look at a market and you get to know the people and you get to know the players, an opportunity will unfold faster than you will expect it to. And I don't think there's going to be a land shortage in perpetuity. I think people are going to see the opportunity to take land positions and put them under contract, and we'll see a lot more entitlement activity going on as capital flows into the space. And that'll create more lot positions, and it'll create more good build-for-rent opportunities for everyone, including all the capital that's trying to make its way into these various markets.
What I'm curious for those of you who've been doing deals is obviously rising costs, rising interest rates are going to impact how you're looking at deals today. But I'm curious, how have raising costs and rates impacted the deals that you did, say, 12 months ago? Like, are there sort of offset measures you're doing? Are there, what sort of strategies are you employing today that maybe some folks in the audience may need to start deploying over the next 12 months?
It's funny, I think about the rising interest rates from the perspective of a broker, I think the rising interest rates are kind of like the lightning bolt, and I'm waiting for the thunderclap because, it reverberates all the way down the value chain. And the first place I'm seeing it, the scatter side SFR portfolio side of my business, is I've seen offer quality go down, by a bit, 4 to 5, 6% decreases in offers across the board on SFR portfolios. But I don't think on the build for rent side and on the construction side, builders are feeling the pain yet. I think there's fear. We haven't heard news of broadly home prices or home price appreciation flattening out yet, which I think higher interest rates are always going to cause that to happen eventually. And when a house isn't appreciated at the same rate, then the lot on which that house sits isn't going to be as worth as much, and that won't appreciate as much. Until we start seeing some slowdown or adjustment in the residential retail home market, and until that kind of price reverberation ends up making its way down to the lot builders and the landowners eventually that aren't going to keep increasing prices of their land and lot positions as dramatically as they have been over the last, number of years. We haven't seen the result of the higher interest rates even close to where we'll see it over the next 6 months, year, especially if rates continue to go up.
Perfect. Well, I think we'll be a first and actually sort of finish on time. So join me in thanking our panelists for their contributions.